Alright YouTube, I am back today to do another video. Today we're going to be working on Jordan 4. I always get asked in my comments or my DMs on my Instagram page, how do I do sock liners, how do I keep them so clean when I'm airbrushing and make sure that I'm not getting overspray. So today I'm going to go over an easy way to do it for a lot of beginners. I no longer do it this way. I do tape around the sock liner now, but I'm going to show you exactly what I used to do when I first started to make sure that they came clean. And we're going to be working on the Pure Money 4. This is the new release, so the quality is pretty decent. I wasn't too disappointed about this, but it's definitely not as good as the original Pure Money 4. But overall not bad. Sock liner is a little bit different, but we are going to keep that sock liner nice and soft today, and I'll show you how to do that. Let's go over a few things that you're going to need. You're going to need some Angelus tape, and again I'm going to be using the red vinyl tape. I'm going to be using the 1/4 inch instead of the 1/2 inch. Just easier to work with. I do have an extra set of laces. Anyone that follows me on Instagram, JSM_801, you know I have a crazy amount of laces. So this is the shoe that we're going to be making with a custom hang tag, black sock liner, some stitch dye, and I decided to leave inside the flap Pure Money white with the two-toned leather. So half of it, the two-piece leather stitch, half of it's white, half of it's play in the sand, and it's an Angelus color. And the color I'm going to use on these today are 100% Angelus paints. I didn't mix them to make the shades. Of course, I did the additives with the sock liner and came out super soft. I was real happy with the way it turned out. I'm actually starting to use more too soft than I am paint. I used to do a 1-to-1 ratio, but now I'm actually using a little bit more of too soft, and it turned out pretty good. I'm going to be using a cream, Angelus paint cream on the eyelets, and a play in the sand on the upper of the shoe. The netting is a different material, so you do get a little bit of different shade. I know a lot of people are going to ask me, well, what color did you use for that? Because it does look like it's a two-tone. It is not. It's just the way that it dries on the fabric. It is a different material, so it does give a different shade, which I actually like a lot. That's why I didn't switch it up. We're going to be leaving the midsole and the sole white. If anyone knows me, I don't like painting the midsole, or I mean the sole itself, because I don't want to have to use a sole protector to keep it from peeling. So another thing you're going to need to keep your brush clean, of course, go ahead and order you some brush cleaner, some airbrush cleaner. We're going to be using some flat black today. I don't know why my flat black doesn't have a label on it. Showed up without a color. Which, fun fact about me, if anyone knows me, you know that I cannot see dark colors. All dark colors look the same to me, so dark greens, dark reds, purples look black to me. So it's hard without a label. Good thing I got someone in my life that lets me know if I'm wearing the wrong shade. I'm not matching, or if I need to ask her if it's blue or black, she's willing to help me out. You're gonna need some vanilla and some play in the sand. And you're going to need some Too Soft to add to that black for the sock liner. And again, I use a little bit more than 1-to-1 ratio. I've been using 1-to-1 ratio for a long time, but I did step it up in my last few customs, and I do like it. It is a little bit softer, so I'm going to continue to use that. You're going to need some deglazer, because again, we're going to have to go over this whole shoe, the whole upper, the netting, completely get that wax off the top of the shoe so that paint will adhere to this and not chip or come off when you're rocking it. You can get these small mix jars off of AngelusDirect.com as well. You're going to need these to mix your Too Soft in your paint. You're going to need some pads for your deglazer. Again, you can get these at AngelusDirect.com. Maybe some Q-tips, a couple different brushes. This one's not really going to matter. This is my go-to brush. And this is the number 6 Angelus brush. This is my go-to brush. I use this more for anything just because it's got a rounded tip, so it's easy to get into edges. It's easy to get into creases with paint. It's easy to keep straight lines with. And then just any random brush for the black sock liner. I'm just gonna be dipping this in the dye and dyeing that sock liner. And nail file. Now, a lot of people use sandpaper because we're gonna have to go ahead and file down these eyelets because they do have a chrome dip on them, and I don't want the paint falling off from that when you're lacing up your laces in and out, tightening them up. I don't want that paint rubbing off. So I'm gonna go ahead and scuff them up and then add a adhesive promoter to them as well. And if you watch any of my videos, I always use adhesive promoter on things like that. So I'm gonna use a little bit on them, and then I think that's it. And then on the back as well, sorry, the Jumpman logo, you're gonna need to scuff that guy up a little bit, get that chrome off the top of there just so that paint adheres to that really well. Overall, that is a breakdown of what we're gonna be needing to get. And again, heat gun, angelusdirect.com, I think they were like 25, 30 bucks, something like that. I could be wrong, don't quote me, it's been a while since I bought it. And then of course an airbrush. And I do buy my airbrushes off of eBay or Amazon. I use the cheapest brushes you can get. They're 15 bucks a brush. They're easy to clean, easy to maintain, and hey, if it quits working, I'm not invested in a lot of money, so I can just toss it and go ahead and order me a new one. So, all right, first things first, I'm gonna go ahead and start tearing this thing apart, pulling the laces out, pulling the sock liner out, the insole out, and start deglazing this whole shoe really well. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on that, and I will be right back. All right, I am back. So just a quick walkthrough of what I've done so far. I've taped off the tongue patch because I'm gonna be keeping that white for the most part. I have taped around the midsole to separate the uppers because I am going to be airbrushing this. I did sand down all the chrome, and I have them sprayed inside out with 2 to 3 coats of adhesive promoter. And if you haven't seen any of my other videos, Bulldog adhesive promoter, you can buy it at most auto care stores, AutoZone, O'Reilly's, anyone that carries bodywork accessories is gonna carry that adhesive promoter. 2 to 3 super light coats. It dries pretty quick, but it makes a world of difference sticking to plastics or metals or anything like that on these shoes. So next thing I'm going to be doing is a sock liner. Now I get a lot of questions. How do they keep the overspray from going onto the sock liner? How do you keep it so clean in general? So I'm going to be showing you a small trick that I used to do, started out doing, because over time you'll learn that taping is a big thing. In the beginning you might not understand, you might not have the eye for it. It's something that you have to train, but you will get better as you do more customs. So stick with it. Don't be afraid to dye sock liners. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my brush and the color that I'm going to be using on the upper, which is Play in the Sand, and I'm going to do some light coats, 2 to 3 around the sock liner on the leather, and I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to make sure that that cures, because what I'm going to be showing you is that you can tape on that. That way you don't have to get super close to sock liner. If it pulls up when you're heating it up to dry it, there's no way to get overspray on the sock liner. So it's kind of a cheat, but hey, you got to do what you got to do to get it to come out clean. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to go ahead and do a few coats around the tongue, around the sock liner, and I will be back to show you guys. All right, so I went ahead and I made a few layers around the edges of the sock liner, and I went ahead and taped on the inside of my flap because I'm going to be leaving this white. It does say Pure embroidered on the inside of this heel tab, and I'm going to go ahead and put that black. Sorry guys, got my daughter again today. She just got her cast off today, so that's good news. But we'll see if she lets me shoot this video without making too much noise. But like I said, I got around the edges of the sock liner. That way I can go ahead and tape using the 1/4 inch tape, Angelus vinyl red tape. And it's gonna be okay if I don't get all the way straight across from the sock liner perfect, because I'm gonna go ahead and hit this with an airbrush and blend that in. And I don't do a nice solid line. I make sure I get 3 or 4 good coats. That way it's nice and solid and the white's not showing through. But I don't want a nice solid line, because then it's gonna be hard to blend it in with the airbrush. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is tape that sock liner. It doesn't have to be perfect now that I have that line there, or that paint there. So I'm gonna tape it as best as I can still, just as fast as I can, but it needs to be, decent. That way when I blend it, it does look good when I do peel off the tape. So I'm gonna go ahead and blend that now, tape it off, get my airbrush ready, put the paint in. And again, I'm just using Play in the Sand. I'm not mixing it with anything, not adding anything to it, not changing the tone. Just gonna go ahead and set that up. So I'll be right back as soon as I. All right, guys, I got that taped up, and I didn't have to be too precise because, like I said, this is kind of the, I don't know, the cheating way, the easy way. And realistically, after doing it today, for not doing it for a really long time, it was kind of nice not having to tuck underneath that sock liner and get that perfect. Again, I'm not gonna be shooting the tongue right now, or maybe I will. Maybe I'll go ahead and tape that up as well. But I just wanted to show you what that's gonna look like. And I'm gonna go ahead and be able to blend that in as soon as I pull out my airbrush. I got it all ready, just put in some paint, and I'll be able to blend that out. It'll look real good when I pull that tape off. So I'm gonna go ahead, tape that tongue up real quick, make a few coats, and I'll be back to show you. All right, guys, I got my 3 to 4 coats on this shoe, and I'm gonna go ahead and start ripping off this sock liner to show you guys kind of the technique. Not too shabby, it blended in pretty good. Like I said, this way keeps your sock liner safe from getting hit with the overspray. It's not the most efficient way for every single colorway. Sometimes you will see a color change from putting it on with a brush to hitting it with an airbrush. But you're more than welcome to grab a brush and try to blend it in the best you can. That's one good thing about this whole thing is, you know, it takes an artist or learn to be an artist to master your craft, and one of them is just kind of winging it and doing what you got to do to get the best results to make your client happy, or if the shoe's for you. But overall, just to keep trying. If you fail the first few times, it's gonna happen. You're not gonna land it every time the first time. It might even take you a long time to get it down, but you will get it. So keep going, man. Don't give up on it. There's the tongue patch, and it looks like on the bottom I need to do a little bit of touching up, and on the side, but it's not a big deal. I'll just grab a small brush and go ahead and hit it with some paint, and that was able to stay really clean. Overall, again, I'm happy with it. That's just the base color. Still got a lot of work to do. But again, and another question I get asked too is, my workspace is always pretty clean. Don't worry. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I do not clean this up before I shoot a video. I do all my work on this. I paint all my shoes. A lot of artists, they got paint everywhere. I don't have a cool paint booth with a million colors all over it. Unfortunately, I'm not sponsored by Angelus, so I pay for my paint. So, you know, I can't afford to have paint everywhere. I can only afford to put it on the shoes. So I clean my air guns, my brushes. I have to make this stuff last as long as I can. So I clean it instantly. I don't let the paint set. And again, I use the Grex airbrush and brush cleaner to keep everything lasting as long as I can. Like I said, I have to pay for all this stuff. So, but no, big shout out to Angelus. They always take care of me as far as getting it to me as fast as they can. But I pay for all my product. I can't afford to spray it everywhere. So yeah, no dirty workbench here. So on with the custom. The next thing I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna do the eyelets. And as if you can tell, I don't know if you can tell in that light that close, but I used a Play in the Sand on the upper and a cream on the eyelets. And so I did base coat them a little bit with the Play in the Sand, but now I'm gonna go ahead and hit them with some cream to do that two-tone. I'm a big two-tone, three-tone type of guy. I like different shades, close colors. It just adds contrast to the shoe, makes it look really good. So I'm gonna go ahead and load up my airbrush gun again, and I'm gonna load it with vanilla. And the trick to the eyelets, a lot of people hit them with a paintbrush, which is fine. To me, it just seems a lot messier. So what I do is I actually grab a piece of paper and I just, well, not that one, but I go ahead and just rip this off like this, and I'll end up just wrapping it like so. that. Turn this around now that I got the crease, and boom. Now I will be doing a few different, and that way, you know, it's not real hard, guys, to keep your edges clean. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn on my gun. If that's too loud, I apologize. But this one, I just find it more, it's faster, it's cleaner, it turns out just better if I hit it with the gun. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit these real quick with some cream, and I'll be right back. All right, I got the eyelets cream. Not super hard, no technique to it, but airbrush I feel is the way to go on eyelets. Next thing I'm gonna go ahead and do is, there is a little bit of imperfections with the fading just because of what the tape was covering, and from what I brushed on. They're small, they're minor, they're gonna be easy to do just with a number 6 brush. I'm just gonna go ahead and blend through it and just make them blend a little bit more, do some other minor touch-ups where I might have over-taped or under-taped, but most of all, I'm pretty happy with the tape job. Like I said, I take more time doing the tape than I do any other part of the shoe. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Like I said, I'm just gonna go through and use the same play in the sand, small touch-ups, number 6 Angelus brush. Be right back. Right, it's completely blended. I'm happy with the upper part of the shoe. Again, that's just the first step. That was step number 1. We saw the sock liner, the tongue patch, the heel tab to color. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna pull out my flat black, and I'm gonna go ahead and mark this Jordan logo. Hit it with some matte black, just the top coat. I'm not gonna hit the sides. I've done the sides before. It's not a big deal just to use a smaller brush. But on this specific color, I do like the contrast that it gives if you just do the top with that flat. So like, for example, from the side, it just looks, to me, it just looks really, really clean. And so I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing I did on this one. And I will be using my number 6 brush again as well. And been using this pretty much the whole time. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that on there, and I will be right back. Right. So 2 coats. In between coats, I'm drying with a heat gun at 300 degrees for about 10 to 15 seconds before I apply the second coat. And then again, a second coat, and then again with the heat gun for about 10 to 15 seconds. And just the flat. So my technique with that brush is basically, and it's already clean, is technically just to hold it at an angle. So I'm just skimming the top. I know a lot of people, they go this way and have a hard time trying to just get the surface, because what's going to happen if you're doing that, you're going to get the sides of this logo and it's not going to come out very clean. If you look, them edges are very, very, very clean, and that's because I hold that at that angle and just basically lightly swipe the top of the Jordan Jumpman logo. So all right, next I either am going to do the tongue patch, which I do the Jumpman logo with the flight underneath it, and then I also touch the stitching. Now for the stitching, I use a super, super, super fine brush. I think it's Angelus's finest brush. It is a 20 0, I'm not sure, but it's their thinnest brush. But I'm gonna go ahead, and I'm not gonna do that right now. I was going to, but I think I'm just gonna go ahead and wait and save that to last, like I did on the last shoe. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the sock liner. I already have my pre-mixed ratio of black with Too Soft. I did a little bit more than 2 to 1 to 1, just maybe like 1 and a little bit more, and then 1 paint. So I'm gonna go ahead and start prepping that and get that ready to go, and I'll be back to show you. All right, guys, I am done with the inside of the sock liner as far as the back of the boot. I haven't done the tongue yet. I do the tongue separately. I make sure this piece is completely dry before I even do it. The best advice I'd give somebody that's gonna do this for the first time or trying to master doing this without getting dirty is the hand that you hold the brush in, that you're dipping your paint in, and the hand that you're holding, do not ever put the shoe down and do not ever let go of this brush, because the minute you do, you never know what's on your hands and you're gonna touch the shoe, and pretty soon you're gonna leave track marks all over the shoe. I did it a lot. I always had to go back and touch up. So finally I just told myself that I was never gonna let go. I wasn't gonna stop until I finished. That way you never have any marks anywhere on your shoe from the sock liner getting on the brush, from when you're angling, trying to get in there. I also do use an airbrush gun as well when I'm doing sock liners, depending on what custom I'm doing, or if I'm being lazy that day. And then I do it with a brush as well. This one turned out great. Let me show you the finished product on the other shoe. This came out super, super soft. You can't even tell that there's any paint on that thing. It came out beautiful. And like I said, I used a little bit more than 1-to-1 ratio, and I used the same thing for the tongue patch. On some customs, I ripped that patch off and stitch them back on with new stitching, but this one was just easier to just go ahead and dye the stitching with a small tip paintbrush. So that's what I'm going to do again. It's going to probably be a few hours before I can even pop open this tongue. Self-dry, and then I'll hit it with a heat gun at 300 degrees. I hold it far away, that way I'm not melting or burning, because then you're just going to make it hard anyway by too much heat. So I'm going to let that chill out for a while, dry by itself, and I will be back to do the tongues. So see you guys in a little bit. All right, this has had time to sit and dry. It's been a few hours. Got the tongue back pulled out. Just to kind of recap where we're at, we did the sock liner. We've done the complete upper, the back heel tab logo, the cream eyelets, and now what I'm going to go ahead and do is do the tongue. And usually on this custom, depending on what the customer chooses, but if it's mine, I'm going to wear it. I usually only take it down so far. There's no need, as far as looks wise, to go down all the way into the shoe and pull that out. If it was for show, if it was going to be display, if someone gave me strict instructions that it needed to be exactly perfect and all the way down, I would definitely do it. It's not a huge deal, but usually on something that's going to be worn, and he's going to wear these, he wears his custom kicks like they should be. So I'm going to go ahead and start dyeing the tongue sock liner as well, and I use the same method. I'm going to go ahead and use a brush, and it's a little bit more of 1-to-1 ratio, more too soft than it is paint. Like I said, because it has an awesome turnout. This sock liner feels amazing. It's super soft. You really can't tell. I mean, you really can't tell at all there's any paint on there. I did cook it with 300-degree heat for about 7 minutes. I held it quite a bit away. The thing you don't want to do is put the heat gun too close. That way you're burning the material, because that's going to be rough by itself. You take a heat gun to something that doesn't have paint on it, it's gonna get hard, slightly melt. So be careful when you're doing that. But I'm gonna go ahead and start that now, the tongue, and I will be back to show you guys. All right, got that tongue done. Pretty simple, came out clean. Be sure not to use too much dye when you're doing that one, because you don't want it to bleed into the back tongue tag. Unless you're going to dye that as well. Some people do, and then paint the Jordan logo back on. I wanted to make sure that I left it white just to contrast all the other colors. I left the heel tab, midsole, sole's white. I'm going to leave the tongue patch white as well, the outer tongue patch, except for the Jumpman logo and the stitching. But I'm going to go ahead and let this dry. This again is going to be a few hours just to make sure it's completely dry. I don't want to touch it and then handle the rest of the shoe, risk getting black prints all over it and having to touch it up, because this paint is kind of touchy. When you touch it up, it dries a different color from when you airbrush it. It's temperamental. So with this specific color, I'm not gonna risk it, so I'm gonna go ahead and let that dry again. And as soon as it does, I'll be back later this evening to go ahead and do the tongue patch. And then I guess we have a matte clear coat, and that's gonna wrap this up. So I will be back here in a few hours. All right. It has been a little while. The tongue is nice and dry. I can work around it without getting black everywhere. So I'm gonna go ahead and move to the next step, And this is the final step before we go ahead and close this off with a nice matte finish. I'm gonna do the stitching and the Jumpman logo with the flight underneath it in black. I'm going to go ahead and use the same mixture that I used for the sock liner. And what's great about it being so runny is when I use my super thin brush, when I touch that stitch, it basically just bleeds to the rest of the stitching and makes a nice clean line and doesn't spread into the patch. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that started right now. I'm gonna be using the super thin Angelus brush. It's the thinnest one they have. And I'm gonna be using the same mixture as I did for the sock liner. So I'll be right back. All right. Tongue patch, heel tab, completely done. Now this baby just needs some clear coat, and I'm gonna use some matte clear coat. And for you new guys to matte clear coat, see if I can show you a little bit better. It builds up on the bottom. So you need to make sure that you shake it for at least a good minute and a half before that all gets dissolved back into a liquid. But if you do not do this, you're not gonna get that matte look. And then when you go to shake it up later on, it's gonna be super matte. So you definitely wanna make sure that it's shaken up well. So I'm gonna go ahead and load this in my air gun, and I will be right back and show you guys the last.
Just a quick tip when I'm using my matte finish. Hopefully you can hear me clear enough. I got my mask on. I do follow it with the heat gun. I get a better matte finish if I follow it right away with the heat gun. So as I'm spraying, I'm following the gun. So from right to left, I'm following the gun, making sure that dries almost instantly. I'm not spraying a lot on it at a time, just a light coat with a light dry. And I do that about 3 or 4 different times, and I seem to be getting the best effect. So I'll be right back.
All right, I got about 3 coats of matte. Which in my opinion makes the color just look 10 times better. I've never been into gloss. I think gloss looks very fake. It makes the shoe just have a shine that just doesn't look like a real Jordan. It looks like someone colored it with watercolors. But I'm gonna go ahead and lace it up and put it together as presentation like I was gonna deliver to my client. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now, and I'll be right back. All right, guys, I got this one wrapped up. I did do a poll on my Instagram. If you haven't went and followed me, JSM801, it's JSM_801. I did a poll to see what laces would look best in the shoe, let the people decide. I couldn't get a straight answer. Everyone said black, white, or red, so I decided to give my customer a 3-pack. Just throw in some extra laces. I did do the extra on this one and did a custom hang tag as well, just to kind of go with the whole theme of the shoe. And I'm going to call these the Black Sands. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. I would appreciate it a whole bunch. If you haven't followed me on Instagram, JSM_801. I'm going to be doing how-to videos, showing new products, how to use products, and definitely going to do, I'm going to go ahead and open this right now. Feel Good Threads, shout out to you, man. I appreciate you. I've been waiting for these to come in the mail because I have a shoe that I'm going to be putting on my Instagram. A real treat. So yeah, I'll be doing product reviews, how-to videos, so please give me a shout out, give me a follow, give me a subscribe, and I appreciate you guys. And shout out to Angelus, always taking care of me. Thank you guys. See you soon.